Hey guys, just letting it load up for a sec. Let's see how we're going around here. Okay, it looks like we're good. Hey guys, fancy meeting y'all here. So I'm trying something new out. We've got a couple of different setups here, but this is the Salt Kitchen. I'm super excited because today, for the first time ever, I released a full-length YouTube cooking video, and I'm super excited to be sharing that with you guys. If you look my channel up, it's on the ending screen after this, but it's also at recipesbysalt.com. The link is in there. It's a version of Malaysian satay. Now that's something, let me just turn this off over here. That's something that means a lot to me. You know, I'm Malaysian. My parents were both born in Malaysia, and I was born in Australia. So you can probably tell by my accent, it's a little bit off kilter. But I love Malaysian food. Even though I grew up in Australia, I got really excited about the notions and the spices and all that kind of stuff. And so I've been experimenting a lot. Obviously, now I live in New York. I've moved away from home. So in order to recreate that, I really like to enjoy exploring both the restaurants and cooking at home. So tonight, to celebrate that first YouTube video ever, I am going to be cooking even more Malaysian food. And tonight I'm going to be making some laksa. Now, for any of you that know me, you know that that's Dante over there, by the way. He can come and say hi. You'll know that I eat relatively healthily. I like to think I eat relatively healthily. And I eat from my body. So I don't eat a huge amount of meat. I eat a little bit of it. I also try and not put too much sugar in my body. I get good carbs to fuel my workouts. I get a lot of protein. And I cram as many vegetables as I possibly can into my eating. So I really try and change up, especially traditional recipes. Malaysian food tends to be quite sweet, really rich, really fatty, incredibly delicious, but not necessarily the best thing for you. So, you know, I try and change up a lot of the ingredients and use what's available to me in New York so that I can create the best meal for my body. So for anyone that has tried to make curries in the past or anything like that, you can easily buy store-bought curry paste. And in fact, what I have here is a mixture of a homemade curry paste and store-bought laksa paste. And you can buy that here in New York for sure. You can buy that in nearly any Asian grocery store. You can also order it online. It's on Amazon. whatever the case may be, just type in, laksa paste and I'm sure it'll come up. There are a lot of shelf-stable versions, so I definitely make sure I play around with some of the flavors there. But what I love to do when I'm making a curry from a paste, especially, is to help liven up those flavors. So here's a little cheats for you. Garlic, ginger, and onion. These are staples. You guys, you have this in your kitchen. It's something that you don't even have to think about. But if you use these ingredients more fresh, then you're always going to have that more forward flavor than something that's been sitting in a packet for, however long the case may be. Just getting a call right now. Definitely live TV. So I'm just carving up some of these fresh ingredients. This is just some onion I'm finely dicing. Hopefully you guys can see that on the other camera. And guys, feel free to ask me any questions. If you have any inklings, any ideas around some food that you'd like me to try and healthy up, or some advice on how I do, how I approach my recipes, please just ask. If you have any favorite recipes that you want me to try and liven up or healthy up for the next time that I do a live cross or I do a live episode, please, again, send it through or chat me right now. I'm more than happy to take any questions and advise where I can. So with ginger, it's usually really fibrous, right? Especially the older ginger. This is a relatively old piece of ginger. So I cut off however much I need. This is what, about a centimeter worth. And then I finely dice that. Careful about getting your fingers. I'll leave that over there. So slice up the bits and then turn it in the other direction. And slice it up yet again. I want this relatively fine. It's okay if there are bits in the soup. It's all gonna come together. If there are little bits in it, just means there's bits of deliciousness throughout. So keep it together. I'm gonna finely dice this. And guys, for any of you that have just joined us, welcome. This is Salt Kitchen. My name is Dave. I live in New York. I am a bit of a fitness junkie. I love going to the gym, which means that when I cook, and I do love to cook, I definitely try and update the recipes to suit my body and the fuel that it needs, rather than anything that has a huge amount of fat, huge amount of sugar. I definitely try and tamp that down with how I play around with recipes. So tonight, in celebration of my first ever full-length YouTube cooking show, which will be at Recipes by Salt. If you just search that at YouTube, you'll find my recipe. That got released today. So tonight, I'm trying something different. I'm live streaming on Twitch and just playing around. You guys can see how I cook, how I try and healthy up my recipes. So I'm just smashing up this garlic clove here. And again, I'm going to try and finely dice that to get it in. Don't want too many big chunks, but like I said before, if there's a few little chunks, it really doesn't matter. So, anyone who doesn't know what laksa is or haven't tried Malaysian food, Malaysian food in general, like I said before, is quite spicy, quite rich. There's a lot of use of coconut. um, a lot of different flavors, a lot of the use of chili, dried shrimp, really strong, pungent flavors. Um, so it works really well, and noodle soups in general, I think, work really well for people on diets because they're endlessly customizable. You can, if you are low carb, for instance, you can omit the noodles. You can add a whole lot more vegetables. If you are high on protein, add more protein. If you, like me, don't eat too much meat, then you can use meat replacements throughout. Um, there's just so many things you can do with the noodle soup. So I try and play around with a few different varieties of noodle soups. We're just making the soup base right now. So this is a preheated pan. Um, just putting a little bit of oil in here. It's quite preheated, so I might even turn it down a little bit because what I would definitely do not want to do here is burn all of these ingredients. So fresh onion, ginger and garlic, all going in straight at the same time. These are going to cook down together for quite a while, so don't worry too much. I know a lot of people say don't put your garlic in until the last minute. That's usually the case for, say, a stir fry or something like that. But this, because this is going to turn into a curry and a soup, I'm really just getting these fragrant. And you can smell that. It's like I know there's a holy trinity in Italian cooking, but this is definitely the holy trinity of Asian cooking. Garlic, ginger, onions. It just smells like an Asian kitchen right now. So I'm just going to refresh this because I know that the feed does go off sometimes. Okay, this is coming together. So like I said, right here we've got a mix of a curry paste that I made a couple weeks ago and store-bought laksa paste. If you can't get a hold specifically of laksa paste, you can play around with any kind of Malaysian curry pastes. You could get away with Thai red curry paste or whatever's available to you. At the end of the day, curry pastes are similar-ish in their flavors, so we want to stay true where we can, but if it's not available to you, really, most curry pastes will have ginger, garlic, chili, sometimes turmeric. The one thing that probably wouldn't work too well is Indian curry paste. So try and find a Malaysian or a Thai one if you can. A Japanese one could possibly pass as well. Okay, so these are softened now. Nothing's getting brown. I'm going to put... Now this is for a serving for 4, right? So I'm going to put maybe 3 of these scoops in. You can hear it instantly start to sizzle off. Woo! And it's pungent. Goes straight up the nose. Gonna turn it down a bit because again, I want to warm this through, but I don't want to burn it. Woo! It's going straight up my nose, guys. It's such a great feeling. That chili, the turmeric, you can smell the depth of flavor that's already being produced. And guys, it's already done for you. So this is one of the fastest, simplest ways to build flavor in what you're doing. Pre-bought pastes, pre-bought sauces, they get a bad rap sometimes, but I could have spent 2 hours at some point trying to make this curry paste. I don't need to. I don't need to now. And now I've got all of that flavor working through here. I'm going to turn this back up a little bit. Okay. So I think you can probably see on that side over here, but I'll bring it up so that you can see a little bit better. This is kind of what we're working with here. So it's the paste is coming together, it's starting to fry off. Basically what we want to do is fry this off until it's changed color a little bit. If you're doing this the proper way, you use a lot more oil than I have. And you wait until the oil starts to separate out. That's when you know that the paste is cooked properly. I don't use too much oil, so it's a harder indication. It's not like just an automatic, hello, you know, it's done. So I tend to go by look. So you're just watching the paste, making sure that it doesn't burn, mostly. But then secondly, watching for it to change into a slightly darker color. And so guys, what we did before, just remember, is put in fresh onion, fresh garlic, fresh ginger to really liven up the flavors of that store-bought paste. Because those pastes, honestly, have probably been on the shelf for a month, maybe a little bit longer, maybe even much longer. I don't know how long those take or how long those keep. So to bring in some fresh herbs, some fresh ingredients, some fresh spices, really livens up that flavor. Okay, starting to change color now, so we're getting close. What I'm going to do is add in our sweetener. And for this, I'm not using sugar because I try not to put any added sugar into my diet if I can help it. Sometimes it's worth it for the flavor. In this case, I mean, look at all that flavor. You do not need to be adding too much more flavor to this because it's already so full. So the fact that there's so much depth, so many spices in this paste, means that it's going to cover up a lot. So normally you use palm sugar in this, and palm sugar has that brown sugary kind of deep, rich flavor, and that's great. That's really, really good, and I would really like that in here, but you don't really miss it in something that tastes this fragrant and this this deep and has this much spice. So what I use is, and you'll see it here, stevia, which is an extract from a leaf that is naturally sweet. It has 0 calories, which is great for those who are counting. But for those of us who aren't necessarily counting, but just watching their sugar intake, it's great as well. So this is a decent amount. This is like 2-3 tablespoons. I'm going to use half of that first. And then I'm going to taste it. But in order to taste it, I'm going to add in my liquids so that I'm not burning my mouth off. So, to this paste, looking really good now. Just going to leave that there and grab my coconut milk. So, this is a can of coconut milk. Go straight in there. We can turn this up a little bit. And waste not, want not, I'm going to get all of the bits out of the lid, out of the can. There we go. And I happen to have, from a dessert that I made the other day, which is coming out on the YouTube channel as well, watch out for that recipe. I made a vegan chocolate cream pie with 0 sugar. It is amazing. It's literally eating tofu and vegetables for dessert. It was incredible. But I had about a half a can left over of some coconut milk. So that's a can and a half of coconut milk that I've just added in there. And that's going to sit for and simmer. I'm also going to add in here some stock. And now, guys, this is where you can play around with it. If you're vegetarian or vegan, like I'm eating right now, then you can add in vegetable stock, mushroom stock, whatever you want to do. Um, if you are not vegetarian or vegan, an omnivore, shall we say, meat eater, you can add in chicken stock. You can add in fish stock if you really wanted to, actually. And that would work incredibly well in here as well. So I have some pre-prepared stock over here. This is a mushroom stock that I love. Probably about 4 cups, I'd say. 4 cups of stock there. I'm just going to bring this up to a boil. So the one amazing thing about these things, induction cooktops, is that they can boil things like nothing else. So I've put that up to the highest heat that it can. In fact, I'm going to bring it down a little bit because that will probably be a little bit too quick. And we're just going to stir it. Make sure that nothing gets caught on the bottom. Get all of those little bits and pieces. And we'll let that just come to a simmer. So, growing up in Australia meant that there was a lot of there was a big Asian population there, and I think that was great from a identity perspective for me. I didn't speak any other kind of languages or anything like that growing up, so it was interesting, being lumped into a group called Asians because I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily identified as someone from Asia. I was born in Australia, and I identified as Australian. So it was really interesting growing up and looking a certain way and being typecast in a certain way. But what I really enjoyed about that fact was later on when nobody cared anymore. It was really interesting to get to explore all the different flavors. I'm used to these flavors because I've grown up. My mom is a great cook. She prepared laksa and curries, and she even went into barbecue and played around with Western flavors a lot growing up. So we ate anything and everything. I made my mom spaghetti bolognese last night. So it was really interesting growing up, exploring all of these different flavors and introducing other people to these interesting flavors that they had never really played around with or explored before. So I loved taking people to Malaysian restaurants, cooking Malaysian food for them, because it is, I mean, it's not the most well-known food. It's something that is on the rise, on the up and up, I think. But in Australia, it's definitely a food that is becoming incredibly popular, and I think that's down to the fact that all of those senses, the sweet, spicy, salty, bitter, they're all played with in Malaysian cuisine, and it's really an amalgamation of Indian, Chinese, native Malay flavors and recipes that come together to make what makes Malaysian food great. And that's something like this, curry laksa, which is, obviously influenced by the curries of India, and has the noodles from Asia, from China, and a lot of the local spices and flavors that are indigenous to the Malay Peninsula. So it's really one of my favorite things to introduce people to it. So what I'm starting to prepare now, while this is starting to heat up, is my toppings. So there are obviously noodles in here, which I'll talk about in a second. We've got a whole lot of vegetables. There's a lot of green on here. But your meat, your protein component, is one of the most important parts. In a typical curry meat or curry laksa, they use fried tofu puffs, which are delicious. They're like uh, little bowls that soak up literally all of the flavor that's in this broth right now. Um, they just sit in that, they soak it up, and they are incredible. The one problem that I have with them is that they are deep fried. So I try to avoid eating deep fried things where I can. You know, on the odd chance that I feel like it and I want to put that into my body, I will. But today I'm just using firm tofu, and I'm just cutting it up into cubes. Keep in mind that when you are serving this up, you know, you've got your little soup spoon when you're eating things. So you don't want anything too large. That's probably on the verge of being too large, but it'll work. I'm also using, and this is very strange, a bit out of the ordinary, but because I'm not eating meat right now, I'm using the Beyond Meat replacement. So it's grilled chicken, which is basically soy protein that has been formed into shapes, which sounds horrible. And then it could be flavored. This one in particular just tastes like it's been grilled. And that gives me the protein that I need um, to fuel my body, to fuel my workouts, to keep me going throughout the day. And so I use some of that. My significant other is not vegan, doesn't care as much as I do about the amount of meat that he eats. So I give him meat. So, I mean, they look pretty real, right? It's pretty cool. So there's some of that on that side. Our broth has come up to a boil, so I'm just going to taste it really quickly and see how that's come together. And guys, obviously, hot tip: anytime anytime you cook anything, taste, 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 taste. Make sure that the flavors are well put together and delicious. Let me just make sure that my computer continues on. There we go. Okay, so let's taste this. Mmm. Mm, 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 mm. Could do with a tiny bit more sweetness, so I'm going to put a little bit more stevia in. But it is salty enough. I did have some fish sauce here on the go just in case, but I think that the broth gave it enough saltiness. Okay, so we're going to leave that going for another quick second, and then we're going to take it off the heat, and we'll start creating our bowl. So we've got our proteins, and let's talk about the vegetables. So again, this is something that you can play around with. There are traditional vegetables that are usually in curry laksa, but I like to add a whole lot of other ingredients and vegetables into it. So I don't really play by the traditional rules necessarily because I like bulk of vegetables in my food. There was a time where I was eating incredibly low carb, and for me, these were a godsend. Vegetables in general, I would ask if I was ever at a restaurant that served curry soups or any kind of noodle soup. I would ask if they can omit the noodles and just give me vegetables. And the majority of the time, no one had an issue with that at all. So I'm just chopping these up, by the way, into, what's that, 2-inch pieces? 3-inch pieces? For those of you that are joining in anywhere around the world, that's probably 8 centimeters. I'm slowly getting used to this imperial system. Not really. Okay. There we go. There we go. Get it all in there. So this is, I mean, I know these vegetables as gailan, um, which is, I believe, the Cantonese name for it. And the reason I know the Cantonese name for it is because my dad was or speaks Cantonese. These are garlic. What do you call them? Garlic sprouts, garlic shoots. They have, especially if you cut them. Oh, they smell like very richly and very deeply of garlic. Um, Obviously, if you're averse to garlic, steer clear. Don't play around with them. But if you like the taste of garlic, but um, obviously we're not topping this with just raw garlic, then play around with this um, herb, I guess you'd call it. I use it a lot to top soup noodles, things like that. You could stir fry these as well to give a good, I wouldn't say pungent, but a good flavor and essence of garlic throughout. And again, just for viewers' sakes, for plating up, I try and keep them all around about the same length. These are a little bit shorter than my vegetables, but my gailan, so but I'm keeping it that way for a reason, and you'll see when it all comes together. In here, I've got some just standard bean sprouts, and they go on the bottom. And then on top is what I'm going to prepare now. In fact, I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit. See if that stays there. Manhattan kitchen, tiny space, completely non-practical, but we make it work. So I'm just chopping the bottom off of these green onions slash scallions slash, oh god, what else do we call them? So many names for these. Spring onions in Australia. So what I want to do is just get this ready to top the laksa. So we're just chopping straight across, keeping it relatively fine, getting those fingers out of the way. And guys, like I said, if you've got any questions or you've got any recipes that you want me to try out or healthy up for you that you love, you know, your comfort food, whatever the case may be, I am up for the challenge. Stick it in the chat. I'm excited to try and be, or try and help you out. Play around with what I know, which is, I'm going to be honest, I'm not an expert. I am not a nutritionist, but I've cooked long enough to know what I do and do not like and what I can play around with insofar as food is concerned from a health perspective, for what I cook for my body. So there's just some green onions chopped up. Sometimes I like to do them straight on. Sometimes I like to do them on an angle. Completely up to you. Depends on, you know, how you like to display food. I'll show you the difference in a second once I get to the end of these. Again, just watch for fingers, watch for fingers. And so this smell that's coming off of this laksa, which I'm going to turn down now because it's been boiling for a little bit, so it's pretty much ready. But this smell reminds me of home. My mom used to make laksa. This was kind of like my my sad sickness dish. It was always a bit of a treat to come home and smell this, or to have mum ask me to help make it. I loved helping my mom in the kitchen. And she's a great cook. She's still a great cook. She's actually in Hong Kong right now looking after my new niece. My brother had a little baby, and so I'm sure she's cooking up a storm over that end as well. So here you'll see. These are the flat pieces. So you can see I chopped those straight down the center. They've got, you know, a good chunk, a good heft to them. And then these are the ones that I've cut on an angle. And again, you can kind of see the difference there. I like these from a display perspective, so I play around with chopping things on an angle quite a lot. But, you know, do both. Mix it up. Do what I did. Why not? Just going to leave these here. And the last thing on here to prepare is my cilantro or coriander, depending on what country you're in, who you talk to. In America, these are known as cilantro leaves, but for some reason the seeds are still called coriander. I think in the majority of the rest of the world, this is just known as coriander. So this is just going on top of our laksa finished. So once everything is done, this just garnishes the top. So I don't really want to chop too much of it up. I tend to pick it whenever it's just being used as a garnish as opposed to being stirred in. I'm super lazy with my garnishes and things like that, so forgive me, but I cook how I cook. At the end of the day, it's a bit of a rush. You know, I get home at the end of the day and I need to get dinner on the table. So I have my shortcuts, things that are important to me, things that are not. These stems, though, I will not waste. So I chop them up finely, and I'll include those in the garnish with the green onion. There's a whole lot of flavor, and it's, you know, it's the same flavor that's in those leaves, but there's a good bit of crunch to it as well. So it adds this kind of freshness to what you're preparing. This is getting a little full. Okay. So I'm just going to lump that in with my green onion. And we can start to put this all together now. I'll take you through step at a time. So, I'm just going to move this away. And then I'm going to take this off the heat because we need to blanch everything. So let me just get cleared up. Going to move this away. And swap this in, I think. So this is just a pot of water. Plain and simple. Nothing special in it at all. And we're going to get that heated up. So let me move this away. Again, tight quarters. There we go. Okay, stop beeping. It's okay. Probably should have turned this off first. There we go. Okay. You freaking out still, or are you good? There we go. Okay. So, just getting this on the boil now. Clean up a little as we go. I'm going to grab my bowl. There we are. I'm going to be completely honest, guys. I completely forgot to get the bowls ready. So, luckily, I live in a tiny, tiny New York apartment, so nothing is too far away from me. So, this water is heating up, and like I said, everything really for this dish now just gets blanched and then put in here. So that's why I said before, if this is your dish of choice for dinner, this is great because it's endlessly customizable. I do similar ideas like a hot pot, or I've made laksa for big groups of people where I'll make the broth vegetarian because that satisfies everybody and no one can really tell the difference with all that flavor in there. And then everyone can kind of customize what they put in there. So the same thing, if I am low carb, I play around with a lot more vegetables, take all the noodles out. If I am high carb and I do not care, add more noodles. Um, let's talk about the noodles actually for a sec, because these are really interesting. So normally it's a mixture, well, the way my mom does it, it's a mixture of rice noodles, which are those thin white strands, and egg noodles, which are the thick yellow ones, which you see a lot of the time stir-fried in delicious takeout and things like that. So I, I don't have an adverse reaction to any of that kind of stuff, but I do try and keep things a little bit healthier for me. So what I found works really well for me is a mixture of shirataki noodles. I'll explain those in a second, and soba. And soba is a Japanese noodle. It's made mainly out of buckwheat, a little bit of whole wheat, depending on what brand you get. But the buckwheat that's in here isn't actually related to wheat at all. It has nothing to do with wheat. It is actually a seed, I believe, and it's super high in protein. So a serve of these noodles actually have about, I think it was 11 grams of protein in it, which is kind of ridiculous given that it's a noodle. But again, that's why I choose this noodle over anything else. And then these shirataki noodles, they're made out of yam. Again, this is a Japanese product. You see them in a lot of health food stores nowadays, marketed as miracle noodles or zero noodles or something like that. They make pasta versions. They make angel hair. They make fettuccine. They make all that kind of stuff. So you can replace it in Western dishes as well. But I like to use these in place of the rice noodles purely because it is purported, and I mean it must be because it's on all the labels, to have 0 calories. I have no idea still how that works. And if anybody out there can explain to me how that works, I would love to understand that a little bit better. I believe it has something to do with the fact that this is mostly fiber, I believe, or mostly something, and your body doesn't digest it. So it essentially goes straight through you. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I really like the fact that I can eat this and not feel like it's weighing me down. And it's a really great replacement for noodles in general. Just gonna keep this going. Lovely. So, as you can potentially hear by the high-pitched squeal, this is pretty much on the boil, and we're gonna layer everything in. So this is the order that I've always done it, and this is the order that I've always done it purely because that's the way my mom did it. But we're going to start off, and there are bubbles forming here, so that's perfect timing, with the bean sprouts. And the bean sprouts go on the bottom. Most things in this dish take 5-10 seconds to blanch. So we're going to be super quick with them. Got my colander here, or strainer, depending on who you're talking to. And I really like my bean sprouts super crunchy. So I am done with them right now. Let's get them out. Could do with a smaller colander, hey. Straight into the bottom. Get those last few out. Straight into the bottom. Alright, on top of that go my shirataki noodles. So these, they come with a little funky taste. I'm going to be honest. If you smell them straight out of the packet, ooh, these ones are long! If you smell them straight out of the packet, they're a little bit fishy, which is completely off-putting, I'm going to be honest. But the moment that you heat them, the moment that you boil them, they immediately lose that flavor, and they basically go completely flavorless. So these are going in here now. Here we go. And guys, for anyone that's just joining us, welcome. This is the Salt Kitchen. I'll give my quick spiel again. We are tonight celebrating my YouTube launch of my cooking channel, Recipes by Salt. And in order to celebrate, I always cook. So I'm cooking for you guys tonight. You can see here that I am preparing a Malaysian laksa. And the recipe for this is actually on my blog. If you go to recipesbysalt.com, it's all on there. And you can see that I have altered it a little bit because my diet has changed since I posted that recipe. I eat a lot less meat, so I try and keep things. This is probably a little bit too much for one serve, but I try and adapt. You know, I don't always eat exactly the same way. Right now, I'm eating meat maybe once a week. So tonight, this is completely vegan. Just so happens. All right. So these vegetables, the gailan, take just a second. I just realized this isn't actually gailan. This is a different kind of vegetable. Anyway, it's gonna work perfectly either way. This takes a little second more because the woody stalks just need to be completely cooked. So it takes a second longer than the really thin bean sprouts, which are delicious. Okay. So here we go. I'm gonna stick that over there. These, you know what? It'll be fine. Don't be silly like me and use your fingers like this. I've got chopsticks literally right there, but no. Just burning my fingers instead. Making great life choices here, guys. Okay, I'm gonna keep these ones off to the side. And now the proteins. Oh, no. Missed the soba noodles. So just a few soba noodles, maybe a third of that pack, straight into the boiling water. These aren't super starchy, and look, now I use the chopsticks. Don't understand myself at all. These aren't super starchy, which is great because they don't then stick together incredibly quickly afterwards. So they can sit around after you've blanched them for a sec. No worries at all. And they do soften, like, again, if you think about how thin these strands are, they soften pretty quickly and they cook very quickly. So don't worry too much about these. Don't overthink them. Quick in and out. Maybe another 30 seconds in there. They're already softened. And then after this, we're going to play around with our proteins. So like I said before, I'm using tofu and I'm using a meat replacement, which is made out of soy protein again. It's like a fake chicken. If you're eating chicken right now, great for you. Stick chicken in this for sure. I use boiled chicken breast, and I really enjoy that texture and that flavor. So I try and keep, if I am not eating meat at this point, I try and use a replacement that kind of gives me that flavor as well. Hi, McJune. How's it going? I don't read Korean, unfortunately. So I'm not sure what you're asking there, but welcome. We are making Malaysian laksa tonight. And we're doing that in celebration of my new cooking channel on YouTube, which is called Recipes by Salt. So please stay tuned. What am I cooking? I am cooking laksa. Have you ever had laksa? It's a Malaysian noodle. And by the way, I love Korean food and I need to get better at cooking it. Okay, so we've put two different types of noodles in here. The shirataki noodles and the soba noodles. Like I said, definitely not the standard by any stretch of the imagination. And now we're going to play around with our proteins. So I've got tofu. I'm going to make, it's probably enough there. Off to one side. and the chicken in here as well. Quick them out. And we've already made our soup, which is off to the side over there. It's boiled for a little bit. It has some curry paste in it, some laksa paste actually, some coconut milk, and some vegetable stock, or you can use chicken stock, whatever the case may be, depending on how you're eating at the moment. And again, we're really just blanching this stuff. So we're just heating it through so that you can try it. So that you can eat it, sorry. Doing well here. Okay. So taking out my tofu, taking out my pieces of chicken or chicken replacement. This just happens to be vegan because I am eating vegan at the moment. But on any other day, this could easily have meat in it, and it is delicious with meat. Okay, so then we work on our garnishes. These are a couple of boiled eggs that I've chopped up before, so they just sit usually in the center. Again, this is just how I do it. However you guys want to do it. I'm going to turn this down for a sec, because obviously that's going to boil over. And these are those garlic sprouts, or garlic shoots, that I've just chopped up. So I'm going to put in probably half of that. You want to take that edge off, because if it's raw, it's literally like biting into raw garlic, which is not incredibly pleasant. So let's check on that. Again, super thin, so it takes a couple of seconds to blanch in there. I will put these over this way. And guys, like I've said, if you have any requests for meals that you want me to try and healthy up, I would love any of those challenges that you can send my way. I love cooking. I love making things healthier. My blog, Recipes by Salt, is on Instagram, now on YouTube as well, as of today, which is why we're celebrating here. And I really enjoy the challenge, I think, of doing all of that. So please, send through any suggestions, any questions. I love to take them. And then last things last is just a little bit of a garnish. But I always like to leave that till after the soup. So let me go and get a couple of ladles of the soup. And you know what? I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to bring the soup back over here so that we can reheat it a little bit. Luckily, the handle is not too hot. And this is the soup. So for those of you who have just joined us, for the last about hour, I've been cooking this Malaysian laksa. And this soup right here is made out of a pre-bought laksa paste, which I just buy in Chinatown in New York here. But I have found pretty much in nearly every Chinatown anywhere I've ever traveled. And you can easily make one yourself. There are recipes all over the internet. It's a mixture of onion, garlic, galangal, which is a variety of like a very gingery kind of flavor. There's usually ginger in it as well. Chili. Sometimes there's some dried shrimp and stuff like that in there. So if you're that way inclined, please make it yourself. I absolutely did not have time to do that tonight, so I have used a pre-bought curry paste. But for those of you who were with me from the beginning, you saw that anytime I use a curry paste, I like to brighten the flavors up a little bit, because a curry paste might have been made a year ago and it was shelf stable. So I like to use fresh onions, fresh garlic, fresh lemongrass if I happen to have any on hand, fresh ginger. And I like to stir fry that first and then put in the curry paste so that those flavors are mimicked but boosted, and they're fresh. Um, so that's the way I always do it. So I did that. I put in the curry paste after that, and then I stir fried that off until the color changed a little bit, became a little bit darker. I added a little bit of sugar or sugar replacement. Again, I'm watching all of the sugar that goes into my diet. So I took away all the sugar and used stevia instead. And then I put in, this is a can and a half of coconut milk, and then about 4 cups of vegetable stock or chicken stock. And that's a really simple, I would say, cheater's version of a laksa soup, but something that gets you oomph and flavor super, super quickly. So I'm just bringing this back up to the boil. And this smell takes me back. Takes me back. My childhood with my mother, sitting in our kitchen, talking about life while also stirring the pot of laksa. My mom, I remember actually in grade 10 we had an international day at school, and everyone had to bring a dish of their from their heritage. And so first thing I thought was laksa, of course. And then we had to figure out how to make like 200 bowls of laksa, which was not smart. But we ended up doing it, and I believe it was one of the more popular dishes. And I think that's purely down to the fact that it's really complex flavors. You know, it's sweet, it's salty, it's got, I think, a little bit of sourness from tamarind in there as well. It's definitely spicy. You can tell by the color of this soup that it's definitely spicy. You know, it hits all those notes. It hits all those flavors. It's rich. It's got that coconut milk in it. It's fatty from that coconut milk as well. So it's, you know, it's one of those things that I think is universal. If somebody likes, you know, slightly spicy food, they're going to love this. So please, please, please try it. Bring it home. Go out to a Malaysian restaurant. Enjoy it. Enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it. Okay. This has come back up now. There you go. We've got a little bit of movement, so it's boiling again. And I am just going to ladle some of this straight over the top. So again, just from a presentation standpoint, I know that the tofu is going to stain really quickly, so I try not to pour the soup straight over the tofu. Keep it off to one side. That's about enough there. So that's what, 3 ladles full? Gonna turn that off. We're actually gonna eat after this, so definitely gonna get that together and hurry this along because I am starving. And then to garnish, I have the green onions that I cut before. Just gonna get that all over the top. And you see why I kind of kept these for last. I didn't want the color to go, and I want that pop over the top. Something that I've learned as I've kind of blogged a lot about food and stuff like that and played around with the plating of food. And then, oh, this is going again. Give me a sec. Bring you guys back up so I can see what's going on. There we go. Really got to fix that. If anyone knows how to fix that, let me know. And then these are fried onions. And obviously this is not something that's in keeping with a low-fat diet or anything like that. These are literally deep-fried onions. I love them, and I cannot give them up because they add just that texture and flavor. But I just use a little bit. Keep that balance, you know what I mean? And then you still have that flavor, but you don't have the ridiculous amount of horrible, horrible fats that come along with it. So guys, that's it. That's my Malaysian satay. Malaysian satay. That's the video that's on YouTube, so check that out for sure. This is my Malaysian laksa, a healthied up version, one that my mum would probably not approve of, but that's okay. Mum, when you come over, they're coming to visit. When you come over, I'm definitely going to try and make this version for you. I'll show you guys on camera over there so that you get a better view. Actually, I can show you here too. So there's that deep, rich, yellow-red curry flavor that's going on in there. It's delicious. It's deep. It reminds me so much of my childhood. And this is the part that my significant other hates, but I need to take a picture. Nature of food blogging, right? Just comes with the turf. So I'm going to take a quick top-down picture. If you guys have any food photography tips, I'd love to hear them. I am not a great photographer when it comes to meals, food, you know, angles, all that kind of stuff. I'm still learning. I definitely want to continue learning. And I would love any tips you guys might have insofar as how to make things look more appetizing, how to make them pop a little bit more, all that kind of stuff. Love it. Okay, couple more. One more from above. Okay, now let's try it. I wish you guys were here with me and you could try this. Oh, here we go. So there are those shirataki noodles that are down the bottom. The bean sprouts. Trying to get a little bit of everything in here. Get those soba noodles in here as well. Oh, the best bit. Don't ever wear white. Don't ever wear white when you're eating laksa. Constant struggle of my life, but totally worth it in the end. Oh my god, I'm making a complete mess here. Laksa fest! Ah! Okay, here we go. Finally. It's deep, it's rich, it's spicy. Straight up spicy. There's that sweetness that comes through. The depth of flavor from all of the curry, the turmeric, the tamarind, I think, is in there. All of those flavors instantly meld together, and the fattiness from the coconut milk really brings everything together. It kind of amalgamates all those flavors. It is everything my mother used to make. Probably not quite as good, but it's my version. It's healthy. It nourishes me. And it means that tomorrow I can be in the gym. I can feel great about what I'm doing. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. This was so much fun. I'm going to try and do it every now and then. Weekly schedule if I can, but if not, please. Like I said, if you have any questions, if you want your favorite dish to be healthified or gymified, please let me know. Send it in the comments. Find me on Instagram at Recipes by Salt. On YouTube, if you search Recipes by Salt, I'm in there as well, or recipesbysalt.com. Leave me messages on any of those kind of places. I would love to be challenged by you. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, and I will see you guys next time. In the meantime, stay strong. Speak to you soon. Whoop!